So this is the Mamiya 645. So you would shoot with this if 1, you wanted a camera with a built-in light meter. 2, if you like shooting with a prism viewfinder so that when you look through the viewfinder, you're seeing exactly what your picture will look like. It's not flipped like it is with some other medium format cameras. And lastly, if you like shooting in the 6x45 format, so that's a rectangular format, not a square. All right, some important defaults. You should see here that this little lever is switched to A. The other option is M. When we're using the prism viewfinder, we want it set to A. We also can see that there's this shutter speed dial that is set to the red dot. That's what we want to use when we're using the prism viewfinder, because you can see it has its own shutter speed dial, and the light meter and the shutter speed will not work unless you engage this red dot. So it'll still listen to this as the shutter speed dial. So make sure these 2 things are always set. The last thing is to set your ISO, another term for ISO is ASA, to whatever your film speed is. It's currently set to 400, which is the speed of the film that I'm using. But since this is our medium format camera with a light meter, that's really important. From the top of this, you should see there's a red button on the side of the camera. And I'm going to push that red button. And then on the other side of the camera, you should see a little green light lights up. This is my battery check, so I know that my light meter and all of my other battery powered functions are gonna work. So if that ever doesn't light up, that's a good reason to change your battery. All right, so this is my view through the viewfinder. And what I am doing here is I'm taking a light meter reading, which does not happen when you depress the shutter button like it does on 35mm cameras you're used to. It happens by depressing this white button on the side of the prism viewfinder. All right, so to open the back, I find this kind of tricky. You have to kind of push on this, push in and over, but also depress here, and then you should feel a release happen. Then you need to pinch this to pull out this whole back. So first things first, you should see a spool already in here. I'm gonna switch it to the bottom side. This is gonna be where the take-up happens. And there we go. And then I'm gonna put my film in here. You can even sort of see there's a printed guide in the film cartridge that tells you how to do this. But I'll take my 120 film, and you have to peel the tape off. And as much as possible, I just want to get that off. So you'll make sure that the film is secure, lift it up and over, and put it into the take-up spool, which I'm going to wind to a more easy to push in part on this side. You can tell I haven't done this in a while. Okay, and it took me a minute to get it to catch. It's easier to do when I'm holding it close. I think that might be the toughest part of this compared to other film cartridges, is loading it to this point. You can see on the other side, or you will be able to see in a minute, there's this arrow that says, okay, you've pulled it far enough, and now you can put this whole thing into the camera back, pinching this to get it in there, popping it in, and then I'm gonna make sure that I'm on the single mode. You can do multi if you wanna do multiple exposure, but gonna wind until it gets to the first frame, and then it stopped. I can also see in my frame counter that I'm on 1. This camera will allow you to shoot 15 frames.